We're in countdown mode for the Pixel 8 launch with leaks coming in thick and fast, meaning we have some seriously interesting things to discuss right here. So here are all of the last minute Pixel 8 leaks so you know just what to expect from Google's latest flagship phones. I'm going to start with the design right away, as Google is actually sticking with what feels like a tried and tested core design, but with a few extra usability and quality of life changes for the Pixel 8 and the 8 Pro. It's worth noting that the iconic camera bar is sticking around, but with a little more refinement and room for what is a unified cutout for the cameras hosted in this section, not having separate options for the telephoto lens on the Pro model. Let's quickly talk about screen sizes, as this is important, as early leaks indicate that these new phones are diverging a little even over the previous generation. The Pixel 8 will have the same resolution and screen brightness as last year, but it will see a higher refresh rate, up from 90 to 120 Hz, which is going to be music to a lot of your ears. It will come with a slightly smaller screen size though, at 6.17 inches. The Pixel 8 Pro has the same size display and refresh rate as the Pixel 7 Pro, but has a slightly different resolution and improved brightness. Here's the kicker though. The Pixel 8 Pro is set to come with a flat screen, and will also be able to dynamically adjust from 1 to 120 Hz. Yes, the key takeaway is that there's going to be no more display curves on either model in the series for 2023 and beyond. The SIM tray, this is one of those hardware decisions which is sticking around, so physical SIM cards are going to be in for now. You will also be able to pair that with an eSIM, as that dual physical SIM slot is not making an appearance and hasn't been ever available on Pixel phones. Our information also suggested the Pixel 8 would launch in Licorice, a black model, Haze, which is a grey, and Peony, which is a pinkish option. In contrast, the Pixel 8 Pro is supposed to launch with Licorice, Sky, which is a blue option, and Porcelain, which is off-white and was available on the Pixel Fold, so that gives you an idea of what to expect. We in fact though had our first look at the Sky colourway through a leaked promo video, but since then all of the colours have been showcased in apparent press renders. There's no sign of that touted Jade colourway though, sadly, so maybe that one isn't actually coming at all. Those hoping for a major overhaul or upgrade from the Pixel 7 might be interested to hear that the Pixel 8 series looks to be offering boosts in a lot of key areas. The chipset we'll see is the 3rd generation Tensor processor. Info suggests that the Tensor G3 will be based upon the Exynos 2300, which was skipped over for the Galaxy S23 series. As for the rest of the specs, well, it looks like the Pixel 8 will stick with 8GB of RAM as it has for a few years. As for storage, our previous leak suggests that the same sizes will be available as before. That means you can expect either 128GB or 256GB of storage for that base model. There will be a battery bump to 4,485 mAh, which is up from the Pixel 7's 4,270 mAh internal cell. The battery isn't the only upgrade here, as charging speeds are finally getting a boost as well, which will bring wired charging up to 24 watts officially. Wireless charging will remain at 20 watts, and while it's nice to see charging speeds increase, there are definitely plenty of other phones out there with 45 watt and higher speeds for wired charging, so it does put that in the shade a little bit. This makes Google definitely feel a little bit behind the times, but it's nice to see them at least making progress, at least with charge speeds. The Pixel 8 Pro is actually going to stick with the same storage and RAM configurations as last year's model, just like the Pixel 8. That means you can expect 12GB of RAM and storage choices of 128GB, 256GB, and 512GB of storage in the rest of the world. It also looks like those of you in the US will get a special 1TB storage option here for the first time on a Pixel series. The Pixel 8 Pro will also continue to target a battery size of around 5,000 mAh. That's been pretty standard for the last 3 or 4 years. One area that is also getting another small boost, just like on the regular Pixel 8, is wired charging, which is going from 23 watts to 27 watts. That said, wireless charging, as with the other model, is still capped at 23 watts, so it's pretty much standard here. There are also hints that we'll see an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner on both of these devices, like you'll find on the S23 series, but even the leaked spec sheets don't show that data, so we'll actually just have to wait and see what happens there. So Google isn't coming with a huge camera system overhaul once again here, because we all know that the Mountain View firm really loves to fine-tune the camera quality rather than rely heavily upon sensor hardware. However, the 50 megapixel Samsung ISOCELL GN1 sensor, which was used and first introduced with the Pixel 6 series and used on the Pixel 7 Pro and Pixel 7 last year, is actually getting ditched this time around in favour of the newer ISOCELL GN2. This will provide a host of new capabilities, including 35% more light processing, the possibility of 8K 30 FPS video capture, and even the option for staggered HDR for stills. That's the only upgrade that the standard size Pixel 8 is expected to receive this year. Meanwhile, the Pro will actually get a new ultra-wide camera thrown in here for good measure. This time the Pixel 8 Pro will move on from its dated 12 megapixel Sony IMX386 over to a much more usable 64 megapixel Sony IMX787, the very same sensor actually that's used as the primary camera on the Google Pixel 7a. The telephoto zoom lens should also stay the same, and the thermometer feature, which was discussed previously and leaked, is also another upgrade and added to this camera system. Just what this extra use case or extra option offers up when it is made available remains to be seen. It will be great to see some added functions with that thermometer sensor, but at this stage it's simply not clear if it's just an added health tracking sensor or just something to bolster the camera system available. Finally though, the Pixel 8 Pro is set to get an improved time-of-flight sensor itself. The device has a new 8x8 time-of-flight VL53L8 sensor, a significant upgrade over the ST Microelectronics VL53L1. I know that's a lot of code there, but we've seen this in previous Pixels. This is said to improve the autofocus, which I must admit isn't something that's been too much of a problem in the past, but it's nice to see Google making these incremental upgrades and putting them in their flagship phones for good measure. To account for some of the upgrades, we're actually getting some Google Camera 9.0 app changes, which hasn't really altered all that much since the Pixel 4. It's worth noting, yeah, it's been a long time since Google gave this application a full overhaul. Here are the highlights though. The photo and video modes will no longer be mixed together. Now you have a toggle, or a toggle will appear for either photo or video, and each setting will have its own modes. This will help make things much simpler and more organised, at least from an outside perspective. Google Camera 9.0 will also include slightly different shortcuts and gestures, such as a swipe up gesture to access some floating menus. Alongside its popular stills modes, Google is also finally giving Google Pixel owners dedicated manual controls with the ability to save full 50 megapixel images, which is another first and something we've been wanting for a long time. Being able to set focus point is one that was showcased in a leaked promo video, but there also is what seems to be a top shot update called Best Take, which will allow you to adjust faces in a photo if they're not looking at the camera or in focus when you've hit the shutter button. Just how this works is interesting and intriguing in equal measure, and we're excited to try this out for ourselves. Magic Audio Razor though should help reduce annoying background noise and audio distractions, so that your recorded content is clearer and easier to decipher, and obviously a bit more angled and directed. We do know that Android 14 will probably come out of the box. That's probably a formality at this stage, and it's been how Google has handled updates on their previous gens. The biggest key takeaway though is that it looks like Google is going to offer the longest ever support window for a phone or an Android phone, at least according to a leaked spec sheet. We'll get 7, yes you've heard me correctly, 7 years of updates. Now the wording of 7 years of OS security and feature drops hints that this will include 7 full Android versions. However, we're not going to exclaim that, as it could be taken differently or mean something differently in Google's marketing material. There is going to be a price hike here. A minor $100 price hike for the regular Pixel 8 in the US, at least according to the most up-to-date leaks. Here's the good news though. The Pixel 8 Pro, at least in the US, is sticking to the Pixel 7 Pro's $899 base price, and this nets you 128GB of storage in both cases. Given the upgrades, it's a fair price when you add everything together, and when we consider that you'll still be able to use this phone in 2030, that's around or just over $100 a year, if you're willing to make do with that device for the entire period. Either way, I personally think that's not bad. UK pricing though is set for a £100 bump on both models, but EU pricing is set for the biggest jump to €799 and €1,099 for the 8 Pro. The US is really getting an easy ride this time around, especially given there's a lot of upgrades here. Early adopters will be given or offered a free Pixel Watch 2 with the Pixel 8 Pro, which I think is a nice incentive for anyone who's already going to purchase this device anyway. It's not clear though just what regions this bonus will be offered at this stage, but it would be safe to maybe assume that the US will get this and certain specific high-profile EU regions. So if you're wondering when will we see the Pixel 8 series and more devices from Google, well, Made by Google 2023 has been confirmed and scheduled for October 4th, where we'll learn all of the secrets and intricacies of this device duo, plus we'll learn about the Pixel Watch 2, which is actually set to be a minor upgrade, all things considered. The event is taking place in New York City, and we'll have more content planned for just after launch, so definitely stick around for that. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Following previous release cycles and launches, we expect that you'll be able to pre-order the Pixel 8 and 8 Pro right after the keynote finishes. Google generally launches products in the Pixel catalog within a week or two of pre-orders going live, so mid to late October is probably when you'll actually be able to see the devices on store shelves, or actually if you've pre-ordered you'll get one in your hands. It's really not that long before that whips around, so definitely get yourself ready. I think that's a pretty substantial collection of the leaks regarding the Pixel 8 and 8 Pro. What do you think? Is the Pixel 8 what you are or what you were hoping for? We'll have some more thoughts, as I mentioned, coming in the next few weeks, but colour me intrigued at this stage. I'm definitely interested in the Pixel 8 Pro specifically. It's shaping up to be a surprisingly big launch, especially for the Android platform. Thanks for watching though, and I will catch you in the next one.